Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to yet another episode of Two Noobs Talking. It's episode 106. With me, of course, are my two good friends, John Tracy and Steve Murray. I am Mr. Matt Craig. How you guys all doing? Hope you're all doing very well. John, how you doing, man? Phillies up 1-0 Red October,
yeah.
babe. Yeah, love it.
Getting ready for game 2.
You think they've got a chance tonight?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, by the time this airs, we'll know.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Hopefully they'll be on their way to Atlanta, knock on wood.
I hope
they win
so.
tonight. Yeah. We'll
Actually,
see.
by the time this airs again, we'll probably be 2 games into Atlanta, won't we?
Yes.
Might
yes.
be.
If they win.
Yeah. If they win. Yeah, we'll have to see. But, yeah, crossing fingers. Steve, how you doing, sir? What's going on?
I'm wearing pants.
There you go. There you go. So am I.
I'm glad.
I'm doing that
I'm
too.
glad that we could get you to this point.
He can probably he can put his pants on
struggle.
one leg at a time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
One waist at a time, just like everybody else.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. Oh, man. Today was beautiful. What a beautiful day outside. Oh, my gosh. Wow. It's crazy out here in the Northeast. It's fall. It's officially fall now. It's great.
Yeah.
Hoodie
beautiful.
weather's back. It's wonderful. Yeah. So, Johnny,
Football
what do you
weather.
got for us, though? Yeah, it is football weather. Eagles are 4-0. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's football weather. So we talked about pizza last episode. So I did a little digging about Americans and how much pizza they eat. Apparently, Americans, only Americans, they eat 46 slices of pizza per year. I find this astonishing because I eat way more than that. So I'm
46.
I'm at the way top of that scale. So I figure there are people that hate pizza, and I don't like those people.
Yeah, you have to wonder about that. The mean is 46. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's probably about 8 medium pizzas, if you stop to think about it. Medium. Yeah. About 8 medium pizzas.
What?
6
No.
slices each. Well, I'm
medium
gauging
pizza
that
still
on the-
has 8. A medium pizza still has 8 slices.
Okay, all right. I'm gauging that
So-
on the Wegmans pizza, which is usually their medium is 6. Believe it or
Boo.
not, it's 6.
Boo, Wegmans.
Yeah, can you believe it?
Yeah.
Get some extra
That's
slices.
Get some real
Yeah.
pizza, Matt. God damn. I eat usually 2 slices per sitting.
Okay.
About that.
And I might have,
Yeah,
if there's
about that.
leftovers, I'll probably have another one the next day.
Yeah.
And let me figure, I get pizza once every 2 weeks. 26 times 2,
52, something? Yeah.
52.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
so
right,
you're-
okay.
Yeah.
It seems about right.
Okay.
I'm
I'm a little over, but yeah, okay.
I would say I probably have pizza once a month, I guess. I mean, it's rare that I have it, but if I do have it by myself, I will have 3 slices, basically as the first sitting, and then stick the rest in the refrigerator, and then reheat for lunch, a couple slices until the pie is finished off. That's how I usually do it. But yeah, that's interesting. 48. Wow. That's wild, too. That it's 48 slices like that. I would have thought it would have been much higher.
I get it usually once every 2 weeks because we're going to a different place each time. We've got lots of different places we like, so we like to spread the love around. And,
Nice.
There you go.
but yeah, if you're eating it by yourself, if you can't get a personal pizza, that's a little tough.
Yeah.
That's
Especially
a lot
if
of
it's a
pizza.
large.
Yeah.
For
For
one
one
person,
person?
that's a lot of pizza. Yeah.
You order a large for yourself?
Oh, God, no. Oh, God, no. I made that mistake a long time ago when I first moved in here. It was like, okay, I'll just get a large pizza, thinking that it's like, oh, I can eat this. And it was a chore. Let me tell you. It was like you're just like, after 2 or 3 of them, after a while, it's kind of like, oh. It's like you just can't keep eating this pizza all the time. It's ridiculous.
Yo.
Meanwhile, John's effervescing here.
Yeah, I'm blowing up here. My light turned off.
They're going to say, did the Russians drop the nuclear bomb? What's going
Who
on?
knows, man?
If we
who
shot
knows?
X-rays at you, would you fluoresce?
Guys, honestly, I can't see you right now because of how bright that was.
Who's
taking a minute
speaking to
for my
me?
eyes to get
What's happening? What's going on?
You know what? It was a nuclear flash, Matt.
Yeah.
It started.
For everybody that sees this on YouTube, just know, as blinding as it looked to you, it was blinding to me because I'm this close to it.
Oh my gosh, I gotta love it. Love it. Well, gents, why don't we just dive right into topic one, and let's talk a little bit of the National Football League. There you go. I know, I should really get my sunglasses. Well, I mean, we don't have to, but it is a hot topic because this Thursday night football game that took place between the Broncos and the Colts, gents. Yeah, it was god-awful. It was probably the worst played prime time, I guess you could call it that, game in whatever in a day. It seems like, I don't know how long, but this Thursday night football
was a touchdown even scored in that game?
No. I don't think so.
Not a one. All field goals. One field goal was blocked. So if you have Brandon McManus on your team, you missed out on a field goal, but in our league. Hey, by the way, all three of us on this podcast, we're all 3-1 at this point. Somebody
and one of us is responsible for the other two's losses.
Yeah.
And my big claim to fame is I picked up the kicker for Indianapolis because I knew that game was going to suck.
So you got 12 points out of it, Johnny. There you go. I mean, that's pretty good. But
victory,
guys. This is kind of like this. I don't even know what to make of the NFL anymore. I think I famously ranted about it on Facebook. To surprisingly decent reaction of here's one of the reasons why I don't watch the NFL. And it may surprise you because I have an NFL helmet collection and I'm a huge Eagles fan. It's I haven't sat down to watch any football. None. And
not even
I just
the Eagles?
Not even the Eagles. No.
Oh, wow.
Not even. Yeah. It's maybe it's funny. It's when I do watch them, they do bad. I was watching
there you go.
last Sunday.
Then continue to not watch them, Matt.
Yeah,
so I was not watching them.
Keep turning off the TV. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be fine. But Jen, I mean, I like to get your reaction. John, I'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on the NFL, the Thursday night games, the poor play?
The NFL's boring. For the first time in a real long time, I watch every Eagles game. That's about my commitment to the NFL. I'll watch every. I'll make sure that bell to bell. But and other than fantasy, checking online because the apps take care of that stuff. I don't need to watch Chris Berman anymore. It's not 1996. But I only watch the Eagles games. I regrettably, when I was in the hotel the last couple of weeks, I watched a lot of NFL, but it was on the TV. A lot of it was just me falling asleep, taking naps, and then waking up.
So it was just in the background.
Yeah, what's the score of the great? Whatever. I care about Aaron Rodgers. That game was boring. Every game seems to be. Even the Eagle games are kind of boring. Because they're the first three games of the Eagles games, they're up, a couple touchdowns and nothing happened. And then last week was kind of entertaining because they were actually down and they had to come back, so that was kind of entertaining. Yeah. But it wasn't. We weren't shocked that they came back and beat them. The NFL's very predictable at this point.
It seems to be. That's a pretty good point.
And there's too much of it.
It just seems oversaturated, I think. I think to your point, I think you're right on the money there. Steve, I know you're a regular Eagles viewer and devoter to them.
If I'm home.
If you're home.
Yeah.
Yeah. But will you go out of your way to watch a Sunday night football game or a Monday night football game if it's on?
If the Eagles are in it?
If the Eagles are not in it.
Then no. I don't give two shits.
Yeah, I don't think other than the Eagles, I don't think any of us watch any football. I have no rooting interest in any. I'm not a gambler, so I have no interest in lines or spread. I could care less about any team, other than maybe I'll check the highlights of the team we're going to play next. That might be my extent of NFL football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did they do last week? Who's their good players?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I would throw it on if I was curious. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to watch the Super Bowl this year, gents. I have no idea. If the Eagles are in it, I'll definitely watch. But it's like at that point, it's kind of like, well, regular season game. There's 17 of them now. It's kind of like,
yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot commitment to go through. Yeah, exactly. I and there would be times I think. Speaking of it, like in 96, 97, I wouldn't be surprised. Like for me, I would be watching not only the Eagles, but I would check in on the 4:00 game and watch maybe up until about a half and then take the break there. But it's like, I think
I've never been that way. Like the Thanksgiving Day games, I'll have them on just because, it gets you away from having to talk to people.
Pretty much.
But I mean, but that's also Thanksgiving. It's a kind of a tradition thing. I don't regularly watch NFL games because I get, like John says, I've got no rooting interest. I'm not gambling on them. I don't care.
Yeah. There's no, I understand the person who's gambling on them watching every game. It makes sense. Because, you're interacting in a different way. But I think they've just lost. If they would get rid of Thursdays, I wouldn't really notice because I don't think I've watched a Thursday game. I can't remember the last time the Eagles were on a Thursday game, so I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe last year, but I don't remember.
I can't remember like a memorable Thursday night game, and it's been forever in regards to that. It's like they've been having that for probably the last 10 to 15 years. These Thursday night games all the time. But it would be like, Thanksgiving, there would be like some memorable contests, things like that. Mm-hmm. But, it's rare nowadays because it's like every team has to have a Thursday night game on their schedule.
That's just
for
dumb.
Competitive balance, I guess you could say, because Dallas and Detroit would always have them. And they would always get that mini buy, whatever, but that was always tradition too.
But
in regards to that.
That's for the traditional Thanksgiving game. Yeah, it's okay because it's Thanksgiving. You guys get up for it. I mean, the Detroit Lions have not been great, so the contests haven't been all that good. But overall, the Thursday night games, the product has really been lousy.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably the worst
of game?
the Monday, Sunday night, Thursday night. They do not book very good games.
I don't think it's about booking. I don't think it's about booking, honestly, on Thursday nights. I think you have basically 3 full days to prepare for a game, whereas on a normal week you'd have 5 or
5.5.
6. You'd have, yeah. If you played on Monday night, it'd be a shorter week, but only by a day. But Thursday, so now you have to prepare 3 days for an opponent you might not have any familiarity with.
Never seen before.
And you got to crunch it all. Your recovery is less from the previous week's game. If you want to open the season on a Thursday night, with your Super Bowl champion and playing somebody, that's fine because you didn't have any games the week before that they have to recover from. But to have it every single Thursday, the product is suffering, and people in the league recognize it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like it's unavoidable, really, if you're talking about it from an NFL Network perspective. I'll link, reactions that they had to Thursday. It was like they couldn't hide from it, guys. They just could not sugarcoat it.
You really
and you can't
at this point. Yeah.
No. What would it take? I'll just pose this question to all three of us. What would it take for us to watch the NFL on a consistent basis outside the Eagles? Like, what would
less is more
draw us? Less is more. Okay.
Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
A miracle, but I agree with John. Less
is more. Less is more.
I've got better things to do in my life than sit around all day watching football.
Yeah.
If you, if Eagles games aside, because I know I'm going to watch that, but if I don't see you every single day, I'm gonna be, hey, I'll check up on, I'm that way with hockey. I don't watch every Flyers game, but I do a recap, You know what I mean? Like a week and a half. Oh, let's see how they're doing. Like, I'll watch some highlights from this game, from this game, from this game. Catch up, kind of, then watch a game, and then feel fulfilled, and then I go off again. It's just less is more. Get rid of Thursday. Absolutely get rid of Thursday. Don't go to Saturday after college football's over, because college football is a different sport. Don't go to Saturday. Stay on Sunday and have your little Monday night thing, because you've done that for years. I don't care about that. I don't watch it anyway.
Even with your boy Joe Buck now commentating on Monday night.
It's too late. It is entirely too late.
It is. Even if the Eagles are playing, I usually go to bed at
It's
halftime.
entirely too late.
Same.
Worth staying up.
Same. Yeah, especially, like, can you imagine if you're having, like, a ticket to a Monday Night Football game? And in fact, I remember doing that, like, years ago. Temple was playing, I think, or they were doing a halftime show. And I was down there. It was like the Eagles against the Houston Oilers. We didn't get out of there. I didn't get home until like 1:30 in the morning the next day. I mean, it was crazy. It's like, let's make it like 7:30, like any other game. That'd be my guess. And I would agree. Like, less is more. I think the Thursday games are ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Well,
it's too much.
The problem is they can't get rid of the Thursday games because they just signed some mega contract with Amazon. Is it Amazon?
Amazon Prime Video. Yeah.
So they got to deliver.
They sure do. Yeah, they couldn't back out of it now.
And even when they get done the contract, it's money.
Hell yeah.
Exactly.
We get paid a lot for Thursday night games. We might as well keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, gents. Well, here we go with number 2, second topic of episode 106. And, John, I know you've invested in a Tesla vehicle you purchased a couple weeks ago. You might want to return it like really, really quickly. Electric vehicles.
I can go all the way across the country on a tank of gas. Come on. Joe Biden told me.
Yeah, exactly. But there's one problem, though. Electric vehicles are exploding from water damage after Hurricane Ian. Top Florida official warns. Basically, what was happening was that firefighters have battled a number of fires caused by EV batteries, electric vehicle batteries, waterlogged from Hurricane Ian that struck, of course, Florida and then South Carolina. But in Florida, this is where this story is. EV batteries that have been waterlogged in the wake of the hurricane are at risk of corrosion, which could lead to unexpected fires. According to Jimmy Petronas, the state's top financial officer and fire marshal. How about that for double duty?
Yeah, dude, that part of the article. Yeah. I was like, wow, he's got 2 jobs. Interesting.
He's got 2 jobs. How about that for double duty, right?
Well, 2 jobs is fine, but chief financial officer and fire marshal.
Fire marshal.
That's a little weird.
A little off the beaten path. Yeah, exactly.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
So basically, he's been quoted as tweeting this. There are a ton of EV vehicles disabled from Ian. As those batteries corrode, fires start. That's a new challenge that our firefighters hadn't faced before, at least on this kind of scale. It takes special training and understanding of EVs to ensure these fires are put out quickly and safely. And there's a video, which I think I'm going to try and throw up here, maybe on screen.
Cool.
Of them trying to put out this fire. And
it's not easy.
Ridiculous. It is not
chemical
easy.
fire.
It's a chemical fire.
So you got to treat it a little differently than a run-of-the-mill.
Steve, this goes to your exact point when we were talking about California law. Why not get the technology before you shove the technology down our throat? Why not have, firefighters that are trained in this if this is going to be the wave of the future? Because they're doing the arbitrary bullshit again and putting the cart before the horse. And I can understand if you want to argue with me about, these fires being very specific to the fact that a large hurricane just soaked, it's like, that's the extreme. I get that. But what if What if you're pushing this down? This happens, Louisiana. This happens in Texas. This happens in the southern states. These hurricanes aren't just run in the middle. Oh, it just happens every once in a while. They come along.
Well, you can have flooding without hurricanes too.
Yeah.
You can have weather
Absolutely.
events where you get a lot of rain, and you're going to get the same thing.
Yeah.
Not to mention snowstorms and blizzards up in the Northeast. Did everyone ever think about that? I don't think so. But I mean, and you know, Steve, from experience, some people do not shovel their snow off their cars. They'll keep them on their cars.
Could you imagine, especially in the
with
Northeast?
electric.
I know that's a huge Northeast thing that drives me nuts, as I don't miss, is the people that just jump in their car and drive.
And just start driving?
Yeah, and then you got
snow
like,
is blowing off.
Yeah.
A blow is flying off as you're driving 70 miles an hour? Yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
If you're those people, I don't like you.
No. Between April and June of 2022, electric vehicles accounted for 5.6% of new car purchases in the U.S., up slightly from the first 3 months of 2022, according to Kelley Blue Book. However, President Biden announced a goal of ensuring that 50% of new car sales would be electric vehicles by 2030. That's 8 years from now.
Yeah, but he also thinks his name's Fred. So,
well, yeah,
he might they
have a quote here. Myron, this is really funny. Critics have blasted the administration for giving a false impression about EVs, noting that they are expensive and often unreliable. Myron Ebel, the director of the Competitive Enterprise Institute's Center for Energy and Environment.
What?
Yeah,
like where are these titles?
Please?
That is the CEICEE. So CE.
Attach a BS to that, and we're good.
Yeah, BS.
Yes,
right.
Yes, and he makes $333,000.
Yeah, he has a great quote though. The EV push is really kind of a con job. It may be a good deal for some people in some places under some circumstances, but by and large, right now, it's not a good deal. I mean, that pretty much was his quote in regards to that.
That's a phenomenal quote. I completely agree with everything he said there, even though his bullshit title and his other stuff. I'm sure he'll understand.
This is nothing new for the government, though, to kind of just set an arbitrary deadline, gents. No. I mean, that's been their MO for ever since I've been alive, ever since you've been alive.
That's what they're good at.
Well, we're going to set this goal because the American people want it, and the American people are just sitting around kind of going, no, we kind of like the Mustang and the Corvettes, and we kind of like those cars, the muscle cars. We've always enjoyed those things. And but this is just so ridiculous. Like, we haven't even had, electric. They're working on the federal highways to, get electric charging stations. And I've read articles there, guys, where it's like some people have driven electric vehicles long distances, and it's a pain in the ass. Let's say it takes 4 hours for the cars to charge. It's not even worth the time or effort. And you're not going to hang out at a convenience store for 4 hours while your car's charging. It's ridiculous.
Oh, we have breaking news.
Oh,
this is just coming in now. So breaking news: we have a disturbance over the Atlantic Ocean, which may or may not become a hurricane or a named storm. It's projected that if it indeed becomes a hurricane, it could strike anywhere from North South America all the way up the coastline. Which would be difficult for Florida, having just suffered Category 4 Hurricane Ian, in which these electric vehicles are exploding. But of course, our projections at this point, since we are still in the middle of the Atlantic with this disturbance, the likelihood it's going to hit Florida is very low at the moment, since it hasn't even developed yet. But this disturbance is out there. We just wanted to let everybody be aware of that, because it could, in fact, turn into a hurricane. Of course, it also might not turn into a hurricane.
Question.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
What's the name of this system? Is it hurricane?
Well, it doesn't have one yet because it hasn't developed that far.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, cool.
But it's in the Atlantic. It's over the Atlantic. So
there's water involved. Yeah, there's water.
Water vapor, clouds.
Now back to our regularly scheduled program, right?
Yep. All right, batteries. Where were we?
I mean, it's just talking about like electric vehicles, guys, I mean, we've always made fun of them.
Not because it's a legit goal, right?
It is.
Electric vehicle would be good.
Absolutely.
If you can get it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
None of us, I don't think any of us are against that. Like against the transformation eventually. But not now.
But the legislation is ahead of the science. That's the problem.
And that's
you're requiring these things to be sold exclusively, in 8 years apparently.
Yes.
But we're not at a point where we can handle it. California's infrastructure certainly can't handle it at the moment.
No.
Yes. And
now apparently they're catching fire.
Yes.
Yeah. And especially now.
And the car companies aren't going to be able to handle it. Could you imagine Ford and GM and all of them having to make that transition? That is not going to work out well at first.
No.
I mean, will they eventually get it? Yeah. But look how long it took Elon to get Tesla to a halfway reliable to get them to market. He's halfway reliable.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, you're
and
buying
he has
that
all the
straight
friggin'
up.
money.
You're not trading anything in either. They will. They only want the price for their vehicle.
Yep.
And so if you're getting, here's another thing too, with the Inflation Reduction Act that was promoted by Biden's administration and signed into law, they give Americans a tax credit of $7,500. Guess what? You're not going to see that money. You're not going to see a check for $7,500. It only just throws on your bill, on your tax bill. It's not going to get. You don't walk into Tesla saying, I've got a check for $7,500 from the federal government. I'd like to buy an electric car, please. No, it doesn't work that way. So, I mean, it is a con job. I couldn't agree more.
Tesla does require a huge down payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
Why wouldn't
they? Yeah.
In this market.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, and in this market, you're not putting any kind of money down for that. There's no way you're putting any money.
Especially with inflation. Everything big costs money now because of inflation. That's just the way it is. That's how you get inflation to go down. Is all the big stuff costs money.
And the demand. Yeah, the demand has to meet that price ultimately,
and it does not.
For the price to come down, and it's not doing that right now. Go ahead, Steve. What were you going to say?
Well, just to bring it back to the whole reason for this article was fires of batteries. Batteries are, especially this type of battery, are volatile things. I mean, we can't even get them right for cell phones. We talked, I forget if we talked on air or not, about the Samsung tablet that was notorious for announcements at airports that you couldn't pack it in your airplane. Yeah. They were afraid it was going to catch fire and bring the plane down.
Because of the temperature. Yeah.
And that's a cell phone. Now imagine you've increased the size of your battery because you need a bigger battery bank to run a car.
Yes.
Can we make sure we have that right first? Also,
I've got a secondary question to that. What do you think rubber to a road is? Heat. How are you going to go long distance? Have you ever got out of your car after 250 miles and kind of felt underneath your car? It's really hot. It's not safe. It's not safe for what they have in them now.
I don't know if that would really impact the batteries, but I would be more worried about corrosion of the battery, defects in the battery, the way these things are built. Over time, you could get a short. And if you get a short, that could set a fire.
Easily.
Didn't I read somewhere, guys? I'm just trying to maybe look this up, but for an electric vehicle, the battery itself is already expensive or something like that. I forget how much.
Oh, this is not like your lead acid battery that goes in your regular gasoline car.
No, not at all. Yeah.
This is, I don't know if it's lithium ion or some other.
It is.
So it's a lithium ion battery, which is not.
It's not cheap.
Awesome, but not at all.
Yeah. Just trying to see if there's any sort of pricing. It doesn't look like there's anything there, but yeah, I mean, and I know, like, especially with Tesla, I think it is lithium ion, I think, for them. And it's but it's super expensive. And Yeah, but I have seen, it's interesting, it's like in the compression area, I've seen a couple of, people driving around with Teslas here and there. Not much, not many, but a couple that I've seen. And then not only that, gents, but the charging of these cars. So you're charging it at your house. Your electric bill is going to go way up as a result of this. And if you're living in a condo building like I am, you don't have any electric stations to charge. The only one that's closest is up near an office building up at the top of the hill up here. So not much of anything. So,
and that's the same.
Long way to go.
For what I talked to a couple Tesla owners that I've met at the charging stations at like truck stops and stuff like that, that's just like paying for gas. They're paying for their charge time.
Yeah.
So if you don't have one at your home, that you're pretty much just going to a gas station anyway. You're just not using the gas. You're using the electricity.
Yeah.
Right, but you're also staying there for way longer, as we've talked about.
Far longer.
So it's not just the cost of the electricity you're putting into the car. It's the value of your time sitting around doing nothing because you're waiting for your car to charge. And I think we've also discussed before, you're not really doing the environment any good because that electricity is probably coming from a coal plant.
Yep.
So
yeah, exactly.
And
this seems to be strike 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. Good.
And the battery disposal is not good for the environment either.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They haven't worked that out. They haven't worked that out yet.
You don't have that problem yet because there's not enough of the cars. But when you get the number of cars on the road that they say they want as electric vehicles, 10 years down, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, there's going to be a lot of battery disposal to take care of. These batteries lithium-ion batteries are not great. You can't recycle them. Okay?
Yes. Not at all.
There's some
not
volatile chemicals in there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the best situation.
No, not at all. One thing I'll have to remind myself when I check the weather report, Steve, is two things. One, what's the name? Because I want it to be named either after one of us. It's either Hurricane Matt or Hurricane John or Hurricane Steve. And two, I want to go into a full-fledged panic because I want that to be, for the memorable thing. That's what the B always wants us to.
Wasn't there a Matthew years
ago?
There was. That was kind of a couple years.
Yeah.
And
it kind of fizzled out. Yeah.
If it's a bad enough hurricane, they will remove it from the name list, by the way. Most hurricane seasons, I don't think, get into S.
I know.
So it's hard to get up to my name.
I was just going to say, we need a Hurricane Steve to really just destroy Washington. That would be hilarious.
I think John's so common a name, they probably don't even put it on the list.
No.
Probably. Yeah.
I want Hurricane Melvin. That's what I want. Hurricane Melvin.
That would be a great name. I want
some poor anchor in Florida be like, Melvin's pounding the coast right now.
Well, it's not just hurricanes anymore. They also name winter storms now.
Oh, of course they do.
On the Weather Channel. So,
of course they do.
Winter Storm Charlie is barreling across the Midwest.
West or
from
whatever,
Vancouver to Minnesota down to Dallas,
and they already get like freezing rain, and it's like, really? Okay. All right, so here we go, guys, with topic 3, and we had the discussion a couple weeks ago on quiet quitting. In fact, John and I talked about, I think it was quiet quitting, episode 98, if memory serves right. But now there was a LinkedIn article that I forwarded to you guys this week: quiet firing.
Yes,
and so this
also
is
known as the Milton Wadhams segment.
Exactly.
I did not receive my paycheck this week. I got put strychnine in the guacamole. I said no salt on the margarita.
No salt. Oh
my gosh. My traveler's checks elsewhere.
Love that. The phenomenon is described as the act of intentionally treating workers badly so that they eventually leave their jobs, LinkedIn News reported.
Oh,
that's what quiet firing is all about. Yes.
Treating. Yes. I thought you said, in pre-production, I thought you said training.
Oh, training. No. Treating workers badly.
That would have been so stupid. Okay, treating badly.
Treating workers badly. Method founder and manager, CEO Ashley Hurd said, quote, I would describe it as a process where a company or an individual manager doesn't want to have a tough conversation, coward, with someone, and maybe wants that person to leave, but doesn't want to take the action or the care to dive into whether that's the right next step. Yeah. Quiet firing, gents. In turn, the manager might take things away, change the person's title to signal demotion, assign them to the worst projects in hopes the person will just quit and make your life easier as a manager. That's kind of cowardly, I would think.
It is, but it's very it's the way society is. So it's not shocking that this is a phenomenon that people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It might not also just be cowardice. I have a sneaky suspicion there's litigation motivation here. Yeah. Where you're afraid if you fire somebody, they're gonna
countersue.
They're gonna sue you because you discriminated against them in some way, and so this is an easier way. Yeah. If they quit, they have no recourse. Yeah. And so you try to do it that way.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. Not mentioned in this article, which is a very interesting point, Mr. Murray.
Well, I'm just so much smarter.
There you go. I mean, you try to. Yeah, exactly. Quiet firing can stem from a lack of communication. While you don't have direct feedback, your job may be terminated soon. Other signs can signal it might be approaching. It just feels like a switch flipped. All of a sudden, the boss is becoming critical, not making eye contact with you, sending emails to talk about things they have done wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, that's like, if you're sending an email like that out, that to me is like, that's a bad manager. That's not you saying, well, okay, I'm going to let you go. If you're that petty of like to you throw somebody on the bus, it's like, you can't have the conversation with me personally. You have to go down this route. No wonder you suck as a manager. Yeah, right. In that regard. Note that not every organization is well develops a leadership training. No shit. Yeah. And HR training with managers to help guide them as they make cuts. Well, I mean, I think that's a big problem. That's a huge problem right there, I think.
All you have to do is go shopping, and that is a thing in life. Yeah, that is a huge problem. Training is at an all-time. It's so bad in every aspect of every place I go. You can just see that. Here, go do this. Here, go, like there's no behind the reasons behind it or why it should be done this way or that. Nobody try. It's very lazy workforce at this point. I mean,
I would agree with that
inside. Even inside my workforce, inside my company, you can tell that the training isn't where it should be. Like, it's everywhere.
I can't even begin to tell you, John, the lack of documentation just in processes and procedures within a billing department I walked into with a company I currently work for now. Back in the day, there was no training. There was no such thing as month-end close. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much like, we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants and we'll close when we feel like it. And it's like, well, yikes. Okay, that doesn't really work in the business world, but okay.
We'll try this
really,
for a week.
really, we'll try this for a week and see how bad it is. And it was bad, really, really bad. Steve, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to throw anything in, with your law firm or anything of that sort, but have you ever encountered something along the lines where the processes were all shut? There was hardly any training, things along those lines. Or a lack of training.
Early in my career, not at the law firm, but at like other jobs I've worked, which, in retail. I would say that the first real job I had was working at KB Toys, as we discussed before. Yes. And my manager and her assistant managers were all great. But eventually she left and some of the others left, and the new management that came in was just piss poor. And so you can see how managerial competence can impact how, a organization can work.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got good management, everything flows, everything's doing good. When you have poor management, I was miserable under this particular manager because she was a dunce.
Yeah.
And I actually got a poor, they sent in secret shoppers. I got a poor performance review because I was miserable. I wasn't happy. I didn't give two shits
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah. Why would you care?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So, management styles and management competence play a lot into this. And the quiet firing, I think, is just another symptom of it. They don't train people properly, and so they're poor at their jobs, and you want to get rid of them, but you don't have the guts to actually step up and do the firing. Maybe partially because it's your own fault for not training them properly. At a certain point, well, you fired X many people. Maybe the problem is you.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
But that's the thing with the quiet firing. It definitely goes back to training, because if you train somebody A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that is what they're supposed to do every day, you can, as a manager, you can go back confidently and be like, well, I trained you on A, I trained you on B, I trained you on C, I trained you on all these things, and you're not doing them. You need to step your game up, or I'm going to have to get rid of you, because it's all in black and white at that point. Because you're confident in your training, then you should be confident in your reprimanding and maybe firing, or maybe saving. I know I worked for someone a long time ago. He was one of the greatest managers ever. I was falling off because I couldn't put it all together. He sat me down. What do we need to work on? You're good at this. You're bad at this. You're good at this. You're bad at this. And turned me around and made me actually a really good employee for him, because he was able to take me by the bootstraps and be like, hey, I don't want to fire you, but I will. More of that. So, that's how you get better employees.
Heck yeah. To piggyback off your point, John, I had a terrific manager before she left at the company I work for. And I was really struggling. I was struggling with, basically just, not that I wasn't struggling with the job, but it was the responsibilities of with the job, basically. Like, okay, I was tasked to build $18 million of annual recurring revenue. That's a lot to worry about, a lot to think about. And it's like, the question was asked of her, and it was a pointed conversation. What do you want to do? And it was I took it as not a direct shot at my character, but it was like, this is a motivation for me. Like, she was saying exactly what was going on in my head. Like, how motivated are you to do this? Do you want to do this? Otherwise, if you don't want to do this, I've got nothing else for you. That's how I took it. And it lit a fire under me at that point. And it was just something that she just sparked inside to really kind of get the pilot light to come on inside of me. And I turned it around and obviously did very, very well. Been performing excellently ever since. But sometimes the good managers, the ones that are there, that recognize the talent that's there, just needs to push it, just can push it in a way that can get you to be motivated and to start to think about, hey, what can I do to contribute to the company? As opposed to, well, I'm just doing this just because. You get to involved where Steve, it's like, well, okay, I'm just going through the motions. I don't really fucking care anymore. If you get to that point, it's best to just get the hell out of there and leave. It's not at that point a quiet fire. It's more like it's a piss poor result because of the manager, I think, at the end of the day, in that regard.
Yeah. We've got breaking news again, John.
Oh, geez. Nice.
So I think everybody knows at this point, Cole Beasley suddenly retired last week from the NFL, wide receiver currently formerly for the Bucs.
So I got dropped him off the fantasy team. I got dropped him off my fantasy roster.
So the breaking news is that right now there is no word that he is planning to come back.
Nice.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. There you have it.
There you go.
You're welcome.
I thought it was breaking news about there was 40 seconds left on the play clock.
That could be too, John. Well, let's go ahead and close this real quick with this, guys. What to do if you do experience quiet firing, guys? The number one sentence, have a conversation with your manager.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward. And employees shouldn't be the one to initiate that conversation, though. If you want to take a hold of your career, then have that conversation. I'm committed here. I'm excited to be here. Things like that. I want to contribute. I want to help out. Things along those lines. Be positive.
Well,
talking to your boss can help determine what is happening. Can be a constructive way to obtain some closure.
If you feel like you're the victim of quiet firing, you could always go the George Costanza route and get revenge by just not quitting.
Yes, it's true. Distance and irritation. Distance and irritation.
Right. And it also, if you need to fire people, hire somebody that can handle it if you can't do it yourself. Just do it.
Do yourself a favor and step away from the managerial position. Like, seriously, I understand leadership is tough. But if you're not up to it, step away. It's okay to step away from it. Like, maybe you're not up to it. And if that's the case, get out. Just saying. I could be wrong on that. But I love this, too. One more thing, guys, at the end. And I'll say it in the annoying voice. Put together a 3-column list. Column 1 is all the tasks you were hired to do. What was your original job description? Column 2 is all the additional tasks you've been taking on. Column 3 is some of the additional things you would see yourself taking on that would create more value for the organization if some of the other tasks were taken off your plate. So those are some of our, I guess you could say, LinkedIn things to
see what that has to do with anything,
yes.
Frankly.
All right, guys. Well, here we go with the fourth topic of episode 106 of Two Noobs. And, guys, one of the things that made Two Noobs famous in the early days was John ranting and raving about Section 230. You ever go back to some of the old episodes?
Just hating the
I had no idea what
actually.
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea what John was talking about with Section 230 at all. I was just going,
So you were just faking it the whole time, Matt. God
Pretty much, yeah. I had no idea until I read this article about Section 230, and that the Supreme Court is willing now to hear a challenge on a law that shields internet companies from lawsuits. And a couple of the key points, Section 230 shields internet companies from liability for user content on their platforms, gentlemen. Justice Thomas last year questioned how lower courts were interpreting the law specifically. And it was on Monday, I guess, of this past week, the Supreme Court agreed to hear a challenge to the sweeping legal immunity that shields internet companies from lawsuits over user-generated content. A provision of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, known as Section 230, was intended to protect free expression on the internet by shielding internet companies from liability for much of their content their users post on their platforms. The law also protects companies from lawsuits for removing content that violates their policies. The law, though, has drawn criticism for both Democrats and Republicans and made questions about whether social media companies have become too powerful. Answer, yes, they have become too powerful. Goes on to talk about Nohimi Gonzalez, who was a 23-year-old U.S. citizen who was killed in an Islamic State group attack in Paris in 2015. I remember that story. Her family ended up trying to sue Google, alleging it was partly responsible because it promoted videos and other content that propagated this Islamic State group message on their platform. Question in the case is whether Google is entitled to Section 230 protections when it recommends contents to other users, even when that process is handled by a computer algorithm. John, you are our, I guess you could say, our expert on this. I should actually mention this before I toss it over to you.
Absolutely not, but okay.
There you go. Before I toss it over to you for your reaction, the San Francisco-based U.S. Circuit Court or Circus Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circus Court. Court, sorry. Ninth Circuit, ruled that Section 230 protects the companies from lawsuits, but also raised concerns with the law. John, thoughts on this? You love Section 230, don't you? But
well, it's not I understand the law. I understand 230 protecting, like, if two 13-year-olds are like, your mom jokes, and, like, one kid's feeling get hurt. It's not Facebook's fault. You know what I mean? But they also, in 1996, didn't realize that Al-Qaeda was going to have a Twitter account. So there's a fine line between those two things that they need to work out. We talked about it on the podcast before. Social media needs to be legislated somehow. It needs to be like the FCC or the whatever, the communications people.
You're right.
That Howard Stern pisses off all the time. Those people need to get
CFCC.
involved. Or someone like them need to get involved. And that would be a good start by the Supreme Court hearing this. That's good news, because I like when smart people, get involved, especially in something that is like Google should be in trouble because they were promoting that video. I think that's pretty clear, but I don't think it needs to be a full, like, you don't need to wipe the whole thing, because you can't just randomly sue Google for no reason. I'm okay with them not being sued because everybody's going to sue them as soon as you pull it away. Because that's what's going to happen. They need to do something.
It's interesting here, and Steve, since you are our resident legal expert here, the Supreme Court on Monday granted a separate but related case about whether Twitter, Google, and Facebook could be held liable under the Anti-Terrorism Act for aiding and abetting the Islamic State group. The platforms, the plaintiffs argued, played an important role in the rise of the Islamic militant organization. That case, however, doesn't directly involve questions about protection from liability under Section 230. And they dismissed as moot a high-profile case last year, Supreme Court did this, about whether former President Donald Trump was on solid legal ground when he blocked several of his critics on Twitter back while he was in office. But Justice Thomas, in a concurrence, lamented the power of social media companies and indicated they might be treated differently under the law. What are your thoughts in regards to those two paragraphs I just mentioned to you?
The second case I'm less familiar with. The 230 case, I think, to John's point, they're not going to wipe the entire thing. It sounds to me like it's a narrow legal question of, it's one thing to allow people to post things on your site and just let it be there and exist. I think that's what 230 was designed to give protection for, is like John said, you post things on Facebook. It's not Facebook's fault if somebody gets hurt, because that's just happens to be there.
Yeah.
And it's with millions upon millions of posters, it's nearly impossible to, police it. The narrow issue, I think, presented by the Google case is that somehow, YouTube's algorithm or whatever, I guess, when they recommend videos for you, was recommending this ISIS recruitment video, which sounds to me like it was not a good idea. And if you were actively promoting, recommending posts, that might be a little different, because now you are making it more accessible to people who may be susceptible to the messaging, who would otherwise might not have seen it. And you are, in effect, when you recommend or promote it, you're effectively saying, hey, we're YouTube. Watch this video. Because we're YouTube.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, YouTube tells me to watch it.
Yeah.
Might as well just check this out. Boop.
You're instantly liable as soon as you're recommending something, right?
That sounds.
If I recommended a shotgun to Matt, and he goes out and kills a squirrel, you know what I mean? Like, I got a little bit to blame there, because maybe I knew Matt wanted to kill that squirrel, and I was like, hey, you should buy a shotgun.
Personally, I would have gone with a flintlock rifle, but that's just my personal opinion.
I'm trying to make a joke out of it, but you know what I mean? Like, as soon as you start to recommend something, you morally kind of become liable. Like
it's passively providing the bulletin board as opposed to directing people to the post on the bulletin board.
Yeah.
Yes. For whatever reason and by whomever is doing it. And it sounds to me, I don't know enough about 230 to know exactly what the rule says, but it sounds to me like the question is, because it was being promoted, that's the question of whether YouTube should be protected or Google should be protected or not under 230. But the other issue, anti-terrorism outside of 230, I don't know exactly what that one's about. You know, certainly these terror groups have used social media because it's available.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and look, that's part of free speech, and you know, there's bad people who are going to take advantage of it, and you know, you have to do. I mean, shame on the people who fall for it. They're, you know, that's the sad part is people are dumb enough to fall for this type of indoctrination, but it happens.
No question,
and
it sure does. Yeah,
I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah,
as far as Trump blocking people on Twitter,
I mean,
it was was that not with the President of the United States Twitter account? So that's probably not right. That's probably not right. If it was his personal one, I'd say who cares. But
but
using the official President of the United States,
it might be a little bit of an issue. Yeah,
that was like the whole point of when he got blocked on Twitter. Everybody made a big deal about it, but the real thing was if they would have blocked the POTUS Twitter account, that would have been grounds for Twitter to be, you know, taken, like, dismantled. But they just blocked a dude that I think he was ending his presidency at that point, and he was using it completely against Twitter's guidelines. He was purposefully using it to get Twitter to block it.
Interesting.
That was their whole point.
This is an interesting quote from Justice Thomas, guys. I'll just read it. Much like with a communications utility, this concentration, I'm assuming he means Section 230, gives some digital platforms enormous control over speech. When a user does not already know exactly where to find something on the internet, and users rarely do, Google is the gatekeeper between that user and the speech of others 90% of the time, end quote. That's a very interesting comment by the justice. In that regard, gents.
I almost wonder if it's, you know, more like a monopoly situation. You know what I mean? Like, everybody uses Google because they know how to use it, but effectively Google has practically a monopoly on searching for things, and you know, maybe we need to decentralize that a little bit.
Is he talking about the fill-in? If you type a word, it fills it? Because I don't know if it even does that anymore.
I think he's just commenting on if you're looking on the Google search? I need a recipe for fucking donuts,
something or other.
You know, you go to Google and say recipe for donuts, and Google is the gatekeeper. That's what sends you to the place to find the answer to your question. And it seems like more and more it's the only place where. I mean, shit. I use Google all the time because Bing sucks. So, you know, I'm going to use Google.
It's either that or DuckDuckGo. But everybody. I mean, I think there was a quote from Bill Maher says when you say, well, when you Google it, you know you've got a problem essentially because Google is the go-to search.
Because they market themselves
so well. Yeah, they market themselves so well in the marketplace that this is the only place you go to for internet searches is Google. Well, I'll just Google it. It's both a noun and an adjective where you're just doing it, that kind of or a verb. Yeah, I always get that
back in our day. We had Ask Jeeves and Netscape, and we had all these kinds of things, and then Google took them all over, and now
exactly.
And don't forget, we're Googleable.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. No, it's interesting. I mean, I hate to say, with the Spider-Man thing, with great power comes great responsibility, right, guys? I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah,
this is really when you're trying to police free speech, that's where you get into problems, because free speech, when it was put in the U.S. Constitution, the founders wrote that in there because they knew they had a society back then that had morality. And it's a moral argument to say that you have free speech, because it is assuming people use that speech in a way that will uplift people or, admonish or whatever the case may be, people in that regard. But now we're at a point where I'm just saying that could.
I think that, my opinion, free speech was put in because they were under British rule, where you could not speak your mind, and
yes,
100%.
To have a government that works for the people, you cannot silence, and you're seeing it in Russia, right? People in Russia are waking up and going, I'm out of here. Basically, I'm out of here because we were lied to about what's going on in the world through state media. Because a country like that, you don't have free speech. You can't speak up.
And you get arrested if you do. Yeah,
right.
You get arrested.
That's why it's in there. I don't think it's a morality issue at all. I think it's because you need to have the freedom to be able to speak your mind, because otherwise the government can become too overpowering, and you're right back to authoritarianism.
Yep.
I think the morality comes in is listening to an exact opposition to your opinion and be able to leave it where it is. I think that's the morality of it. Like, you have to take your stance, and there has to, if there's an opposite, they still have the freedom to speak that without you saying a word. That's where that kind of comes in, is you have to, it's a whole politic thing. It's like, you can't run around beating up every Trump supporter or beating up every Democrat. You have to realize that, hey, that's their opinion, that's their life. I'm going to be over here. You know what I mean? And that's where freedom of speech with me is you gotta have it, because you can't censor anybody's opinion. We're worse of a society once you just censor one opinion.
Yeah, just to bring it back though to the 230 case. Freedom of speech applies to government. Google is not government. It would seem to me, and did Google own YouTube in 2015? I thought that was a more recent thing.
They did, yeah. They purchased
I believe
YouTube,
they did, yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
All right. So they have, user guidelines or restrictions or, whatever. The word is escaping me now because it's late in the evening.
Terms of services for YouTube is so long, dude. It's like over 1,000 pages.
Well, but I'm sure it's like if you post a video that's promoting violence, it will be taken down. Something to that effect.
Yeah, I would hope. Yes,
right. Which makes me wonder what was in this video that's the subject of the lawsuit, that it wasn't taken down. And the problem is, again, not only that it wasn't taken down, but that it was ending up in people's feeds of, hey, here's a video for you to watch.
Here's the recommended video for you. Wait, what? Yeah.
And now I'm pissed off because they're promoting ISIS videos, but they won't promote Dr. IP. That makes me angry.
You know what? We're going to promote your latest episode right now. I'm going to throw it up there on the card in the upper right corner.
Awesome.
Bam! There it is. How about that?
Awesome.
There you go.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Shameless plug. Hey, speaking of
section 230 for Matt.
No section 230 for Matt. We're going to promote Dr. IP to the hills. But hey, speaking of shameless plugs, guys, we've come to the end of the episodes. The end of episode 106 of Two Noobs Talk. It's great to be able to sit and talk with you guys. Go Phillies. Yeah, go Eagles. We'll see how they do. Let's see how both teams do next week for sure. But yeah, it's great to be able to sit and chat with you guys. Johnny, where can people find us out there in Two Noobs?
All over the place in this section 230 area where Facebook and Twitter,
Facebook will not be liable for
Instagram,
us.
TikTok and Clever all will screw us with those short videos on all those platforms that lead us back to our aforementioned
YouTube
being
channel.
sued YouTube channel.
Exactly. Name Two Noobs Talking, just putting it out there right now. Like, share, subscribe, for our channel, and especially when our videos drop. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. On the Audible side, though, Steve, where can people listen to us, man?
On the Audible side, it's breaking news. You can hear us on Spotify. You can hear us on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Samsung Podcast, iHeartRadio, Glenn, Pandora, Amazon Music. And that's all thanks to Podbean.
There you go. There you
Cheap
go.
plug.
Cheap plug. Exactly. That's it, guys. That ends episode 106 of Two Noobs. It's on the 107 next week. Until then.
Is it?
Well, yeah.
Really?
I mean, why not? Hey, it's the 2-year anniversary next week of Two
Hold on.
Noobs Talking.
Breaking news. We're doing
that?
108 before 107. See you later.
On that note, talk to y'all next week. Take care.